hit like, and subscribe. You're watching the Marc Lamont Hill official YouTube channel.
Peace, family. It's your brother, Marc Lamont Hill. Welcome to Night School. Every night here on the Marc Lamont Hill official YouTube channel, we hold Night School. We break down the most controversial subjects, the most pressing topics, the most interesting debates going on in the world today. And tonight is no different. We got a lot of stuff to cover tonight. I appreciate the support. I appreciate the love every single night. And as we enter this holiday week, I know people are very, very busy. Many of you will be celebrating Christmas in 2 days. Many of you will be celebrating the start of Kwanzaa in 3 days. Many of you are just traveling. Many of y'all just off of work. So I appreciate y'all hanging out with me for a little bit. We're going to talk about a lot of stuff tonight. But before we get started, I need everybody who's a night school classmate to hit that like button on this video. Comment your name, where you're watching from, so the classmates know. Also share the video with a friend, share it with your group chat, share it with social media, share with any and everybody you can, because it's important that we want to invite. It's important for us to invite as many people as possible to this global classroom. I'm out of breath because I was running to close that door. My countdown started, and I ran to close the door, and I'm old, so I get out of breath. Anyway, you need to be a subscriber if you want to leave a comment tonight. I want y'all in the comment section. Leave comments. Let me know what you think about what I'm saying. Push back against me. Tell me where I'm right. Tell me where I'm wrong. Debate with each other. You can do all of that in the comments, but if you're going to do that, you got to be a subscriber. So just hit the subscribe button. It doesn't cost you a thing, but make sure y'all keep it polite and respectful in that comment section. We're not going to always agree, but you can disagree. You can critique. You can even offer dissent without falling into hate speech or disrespect. We got chat moderators out there right now, so they're going to keep things in place. They're going to keep things respectful. And if you cross that line, you're going to get a warning. Second time, you'll be muted. That means you can't drop a comment in the comment well. And then the third time, you're going to be removed or banned from the area. We won't do that. We haven't had to do that too much. Hopefully, we won't have to do that again. But it's important to let y'all know because we want to keep a healthy community. Shout out to everybody here coming in from we disagree with your Wi-Fi. Is my Wi-Fi tripping? Appreciate y'all. I don't know what that was, but I shall proceed and continue to rock the mic. All right, y'all. As I was saying, I don't know what I was saying, but anyway, it's been an interesting week already. I'm fighting this terrible cold, man. It is kicking my ass. But y'all know I love y'all because I'm here, man. I'm gonna be here every night that it's humanly possible. But I feel like trash, man. And I'm gonna keep fighting it. This week we'll be around all week. I'll be shooting shows all week except on Christmas Day. I know y'all don't want to see me. I still may go live, by the way, because I ain't doing shit. But I may go live every day this week. But in terms of night school, nothing on Christmas Day. Other than that, we here. There's too much going on in the world not to cover it, and I want to make sure that we get to it, and we get to it sooner than later. Anyway, let's get to it, y'all. Coming up, we got a young woman who was burned alive on a New York City subway as people passing by basically did absolutely nothing to help, including a member of the New York Police Department. The video for me is disturbing. It's beyond disturbing, and so is the response. So I'm giving you a warning already. There's some graphic video coming up. Then we're going to talk about President Biden sparing the lives of 37 out of 40 death row inmates. But there's another pardon that flew under the radar that isn't as good a representation of Joe Biden as Joe Biden would probably like. We'll talk about what that means. And of course, there's always some Candace Owens drama going on in the world that we want to talk about. This one I think is pretty important, though. Anyway, let's start in New York City, which has been a real lightning rod for immigration. And I got to tell you, this story coming up, it's not fair, but this story is going, oh my God, they're saying I am pixelating again. I don't know what's going on, y'all. I'm concerned, though. A 33-year-old man has been charged with the brutal murder of a young woman on a New York City subway train. The woman was sleeping on the train when the man set her on fire. He then callously and casually sat on a bench to watch her burn alive. I'm going to show you the video again. I got to tell you, it's extremely, extremely disturbing. And I want to preface it by saying no one knows what they would do in a situation like this. If you've never been in a situation like this, you can't say, well, I know I would have, blah, blah, blah. You don't know. You'd like to think you'd help this woman that you tried to. If that was your loved one, you would hope anybody would try to help. Nobody did. Not even the police. Watch this video as a New York Police Department officer, NYPD cop, walks by a woman who is on fire, doesn't try to smother the flames, doesn't try to grab a fire extinguisher. Instead, he makes a call for backup. Again, backup in general, not a bad idea. Backup in this case, hella weird. Let's take a look at this.
This is at the training.
The video is disturbing. The video is painful to watch, traumatizing even for many. But it's important that people really understand what happened here. You can go find the video elsewhere. You know, I've attempted to show it once. I'm not going to show it again. But the thing that's striking to me is not just this human being who's dead. It's not just this person being tortured. It's not this person being treated like garbage. It's also the fact that an NYPD officer just walks by this woman who's on fire, doesn't try to smother the flames, doesn't grab a fire extinguisher, just calls for backup. And look, I'm not against calling for backup, but can you call for backup and give some help? Can you call for backup and put out the fire? Can you call for backup and do something more than what you did? Now, of course, it's important to note, because the media is noting it, that the man charged with the murder is from Guatemala, and he's been in the U.S. illegally. So this will very quickly become a story about immigration. The right will jump on this story and talk about getting rid of the undocumented, the illegals. They'll talk about all of that stuff. And this will only become a story about immigration. It won't become a story about the NYPD not committing the proper resources. It won't be a story about homelessness. It won't be a story about public unsafety and public vulnerability. It won't be about the people who need the most getting the least, but it should be. Now, I'm not saying this should only be a story about the NYPD, because the NYPD didn't set this woman on fire. So we should have that conversation about what it means to set somebody on fire. We should have that conversation about managing these law enforcement issues. It should be about all of these things. It should be about all of these things. All of these things. The video is awful. It was almost unwatchable. No, it was unwatchable. But I can't help but say, let's get to the bigger issues here. When I see this, I say, well, what leads someone to set someone on fire? It's mental health stuff. How do we deal with that? Someone sleeping on the train. How do we deal with that? You know, there are people who are going to say, you know, migrants were brought to New York and Chicago and other cities, and New York is overrun by them. And this is the problem. I don't have a problem having a conversation about immigration, an honest conversation about immigration. But let's be very clear. There's no reason to believe that the migrants who come here in general, again, there are bad people everywhere, but that they're disproportionately violent, disproportionately criminal, disproportionately prone to such acts. No, this was an awful, despicable, indefensible act. But let's not make this about Mexicans or Guatemalans or anybody else. You know, this is awful. But it's also a story about where we put our resources and our time. Remember whenever I was trying to lock up Luigi? We had the whole NYPD there. We had Mayor Eric Adams' grandstanding ass standing there. The whole world wanted to be there for Luigi because it was a media spectacle. You got something for that. But nothing here. And I find this story so disturbing for so many reasons, because at the end of the day, the police watched as someone burnt on fire and did nothing. That's evil. The original evil, though, I don't want to sidestep, is a man set someone on fire who was a woman sleeping. That's the evil. That's the base evil. What I'm saying is, let's get past the interpersonal. Let's get to the structural. I'm saying, yeah, we can. There's no defending what that man did. It's awful. It's disgusting. I want him to be accountable in all the ways that he should be accountable. How do we stop this from happening again? This isn't a partisan argument for me. This isn't about Democrats versus Republicans. New York is all Democrat. They all trash. It's not about defending Democrats. And it's not about blaming Republicans. It's not about defending Republicans. Again, I don't want this to become part of the right-wing immigration argument, because it's dishonest. It's misleading to make it seem as if this is the template for how we should think about immigrants, or documented or otherwise, operating in our country. That ain't true. So we got to think about all of these pieces at the same time. And again, and thank you, Lucy, for reiterating this point, right? Which is, rest in peace to that poor woman, because this is heartbreaking. A human being died. As horrifying as it is for me to see that woman on fire, it was equally horrifying to see people watching. And I don't know if that police officer was scared. I don't know if he was. I don't think he was callous. I don't think his goal was. I don't think he's like, oh, I don't care about this woman. It's just bizarre to see that as the response. It was just such a strange response. I don't understand it. Is all I'm saying. You know, and I want to. But anyway, that's another story for another time. So we can have that other story at another time later. Let's move on to something else, because I've done a lot here. Let's talk about Joseph Robinette Biden. Can we move on to that? President Biden is commuting the federal sentences of 37 of the 40 people on death row. Their punishments will be converted to life in prison. I'll read that again, so maybe without the nasty ass hack. Princess, you'll appreciate this when it's time to edit. President Biden is commuting the federal sentences of 37 of the 40 people currently on death row. Their punishments will be converted to life in prison. The three men whose lives won't be spared are Dzhokhar Zarmiev, that's the Boston Marathon bomber, if you didn't know; Robert Bowers, the murderer of 11 at the Tree of Life Synagogue; and Dylan Roof, the murderer of 9 Black members of Emmanuel AME Church. I'll get back to them in a minute, because I actually think they should also be spared. But Biden's move comes less than a month before Donald Trump is set to take office. Now, Donald Trump has been vocal, very, very vocal, about his support for capital punishment. And he said that he was going to move very quickly on the executions of the remaining people on death row, of all the people on death row. 40 of them. During his first term, Donald Trump put 13 people to death. So he's very clearly not playing with this. Some cases he took to the Supreme Court to defeat their final appeals. It's not just that he's killing people and allowing people to be executed, is that he's working hard to make sure that they get executed. Now, the reaction to these commutations has been mixed. Lawmakers, the victims' families, people are like, why are you doing this? I get it, right? People feel very strongly about a lot of things. And Biden was very clear about that. He said that he condemns the murderers and he grieves for the families, but he is, quote, more convinced than ever that we must stop the use of the death penalty on the federal level. He also added that he cannot in good conscience allow Trump to resume executions that his administration put in a moratorium on 2021. I got a couple of thoughts about this. First of all, we got to give credit where credit is due. Joe Biden didn't have to pardon any of them or commute any of them. So thank you. Now, I'm not going to expend too much energy kissing Joe Biden's butt on this. Joe Biden is one of the most criminalizing presidents we've had in American history. For every person whose life he spares, he is responsible for hundreds of them being incarcerated in the first place. Not always death penalty, but certainly life. And he has spent much of his career in his life advocating for the death penalty. So let's not pretend that Joe Biden is some hero here. He's undoing a tiny bit of the awful work that he has done. It's a little bit of undoing for a whole lot of doing. So again, we are not giving yeah, let's just say let's not give him too much credit. But he says we shouldn't use the death penalty at the federal level. Interesting distinction, right? He's saying that so that he can critique the death penalty, but still, not disrupt too many people at the state level who say, hey, keep killing them. Why should we use the death penalty at the state level, Joe? I'd love to hear your explanation for that. But if we're saying it's a moral issue, if we're saying that you can't execute people, we shouldn't execute people at the federal level, why are you sparing these 3 people? Are their crimes so much more heinous than the other 37 people? No. Some are worse than others. Some have more bodies than others. I'm not saying everyone is the same. But at the core here, if you're saying that the government shouldn't kill people, then is what Dylan Roof and Robert Bowers and Dzhokhar Sarmiev, all of whom did awful things, is it fundamentally different than the other 37 people? No, it's bad public relations. This is not about death penalty. This is about public relations. Dylan Roof is a monster. Robert Bowers is a monster. Dzhokhar Sarmiev is a monster. If you're saying a monster is someone who kills lots of people, but so did other people on death row. The problem is the Boston Marathon bomber got a lot of media attention. Dylan Roof got a lot of media attention. He walked into a black church and killed 9 saints while they were praying. Robert Bowers killed 11 people inside of a synagogue. The whole country, the whole world knew. So if he were to end the death sentence for those 3 people, it would look bad on his legacy. But there's no moral consistency or through line here that makes this make sense. So I say President Biden, pardon them all. The death penalty is not something this country should be engaged in. We don't have the moral authority. This country does not have the moral authority to kill people. Number 2, it doesn't stop people from killing people. The whole idea is that this would stop people from killing people, that it would dissuade people from killing people. It's not preventative at all. And number 3, we get it wrong too much. This country kills a lot of people who shouldn't be killed. We find people guilty all the time who are actually innocent. So in light of that, maybe we shouldn't kill them. Now, again, Dylan Roof, Robert Bowers, Dzhokhar Sarmiev, there's no doubt they did it. No doubt at all. But they're not alone in that. So again, there has to be a moral consistency here. I'm glad Joe Biden stayed the executions or commuted the sentences of the other 37. But I don't know. I'm not happy about this choice. We need some consistency. Bill the Bunny says no country has a moral authority to kill people. I don't disagree as a practical matter. No, there's no nation state, I'll say that has the authority to kill people. There's no country in this world right now that has the authority to kill people. That's why no one should be using the death penalty. I don't mean to suggest that other countries have more moral authority than the United States to kill people. I'm just only worried about the United States at this moment as a matter of public policy. But yeah, there's no country. It's not going to go Sweden should be executing people, or Russia should be executing people, or Nicaragua should be executing. Nobody should execute people. I agree with you. We got to figure something else about that, because that ain't the way to go. But there's more. We ain't done talking about Genocide Joe and his killing practices. Over a week ago, President Biden announced a sweeping number of pardons in one day. The exact number was like 1,500. Now, tucked into those 1,500 pardons was his son, Hunter, which we talked about a lot. That was all we talked about in mainstream media for days and days and days. But to me, that wasn't the most interesting part. And that shouldn't have been anyway the most controversial part. There was another one that was more interesting, more controversial, more problematic. And it barely hit the radar to a lot of journalists, excuse me. The president pardoned one of the two judges who were jailed in the notorious Kids for Cash scandal in Pennsylvania. Y'all might remember this. In 2011, Judge Michael Conahan was sentenced to 17 years in prison for accepting nearly $3 million in kickbacks for sending 2,300 children to for-profit prisons. Now, a lot of these kids were sent away on false charges. Not just that, like, kids got sent away, so they didn't do it. Some of them were as young as 8 years old, and many of them were first-time offenders. It didn't matter. Their lives were destroyed. Some of the kids took their own lives. That's how awful this outcome was, to give you a sense of the scope and scale of the evil of sending 2,300 children to for-profit prisons. There's no simpler way to say this. And this isn't morally complex. The judge deliberately imprisoned children so that he could get rich. These kids didn't get second chances. Michael Conahan is his name, and he did it. He knew what he was doing. He went as far as blocking a county government facility from being built so that the for-profit detention centers could be built instead. But for some reason, President Joseph Biden, the Democrat who cares about justice, thought that this man deserved a second chance and set him free. I'm an abolitionist. I have no issue if Joe Biden said, I'm letting everybody out. We need an alternative form of accountability for this judge. But that's not it. Joe Biden believes in locking people up. Joe Biden believes in putting people away. He spent much of his career advancing public policies that would lock up hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of black folk and brown folk and poor folk. So that ain't Joe Biden's issue. Joe Biden believes that some people should still be in jail. Again, he makes decisions all the time. There are some people who he didn't pardon. Some people he did. There's some people whose death sentences he commuted. Others he left. He's making distinctions. And he decided that one of the people that he should throw back in the water, one of the fish he should throw back, was a judge who was responsible for the incarceration of literally thousands of kids. This was so disgusting that even the rank and file Democrats, even the Democrats that make a living kissing Joe Biden's butt, made it clear that they were outraged by this. Listen to Josh Shapiro. Josh Shapiro, governor of Pennsylvania, very close to being on the DNC, on the Democratic ticket this year under Kamala Harris, speaking out about how disgusting this is. Listen.
I do feel strongly that President Biden got it absolutely wrong and created a lot of pain here in northeastern Pennsylvania. This was not only a black eye on the community, the Kids for Cash scandal, but it also affected families in really deep and profound and sad ways. Some children took their lives because of this. Families were torn apart.
On Monday,
families were torn apart. Shout out to Democracy Now! For giving us that clip. This is so heinous. I'm not even talking about the judge at this point. I'm talking about what Joe Biden did. That makes you wonder what was really going on. This was so heinous that makes you wonder if there's a backdoor deal going on. This was so disgusting that somebody like Josh Shapiro, who has been nothing but eager to advocate the genocide in Gaza, for example, is able to assume a moral high ground here and say, what the hell are you doing, Joe Biden? There's something here missing. Joe Biden, there was no pressure to pardon a judge. who sent so many kids to prison. This is not a case of a controversial situation where judges made tough decisions and this was a politicized decision. You could make a much better case for Hunter Biden being pardoned than you could this judge. This was the most disgusting thing I've seen from Joe Biden in quite some time, and that's saying something. This is awful. And I hope you all remember this, because Democrats are going to come again. They're going to come around again. They're going to run for president. They're going to run for governor. They're going to run for mayor. We got to remember these moments and hold them accountable in those moments. Because if we don't, then this continues to happen. Because Joe Biden is going to be praised for letting people off of death row. Joe Biden is going to be celebrated for pardoning lots of people. But this is the thing. This is the thing that you got to hold on to. You see, if you'll support a genocide abroad, if you will advance a 3 strikes bill domestically, then this is right on point. This tracks. This isn't a moral inconsistency. This is not an outlier. This is exactly who Joe Biden is. And you all need to remember and understand that this is exactly who Joe Biden is. You can pretend he's not. You can pretend he's warm and fuzzy Uncle Joe. You can pretend that he's something special. I don't know of any U.S. president that would have done this one. Someone's asking a question here. Under what grounds could he pardon? He doesn't need any. That's the crazy thing. He doesn't need any grounds to pardon anybody. He can pardon them just because he wants to. Typically, presidents give explanations when they pardon people for wild shit like this. They write letters. I mean, even Hunter Biden, right? He didn't have to give a reason for Hunter Biden, but he gave one because he knew it would look crazy and he was worried about his legacy. But he knows that doing this from, for a judge won't matter. No one's going to be outraged. No one's going to say anything. The media barely talked about it. All they kept talking about was Hunter Biden, Hunter Biden, Hunter Biden. Look, whatever you think about Hunter Biden, I don't give a damn about Hunter Biden. I really promise you I don't. I just wish the media would pay half the attention, 1% of the attention to this story. A judge was being paid to send children to prison. The children went to prison. Some of the children killed themselves. The judge was caught. The judge was imprisoned, and Joe Biden is letting him out of prison for no good reason. It's really that simple. It's really that simple. All right, y'all. Let's move on to another story. I want to move on. I just want to do one more story. I was going to do more, but I'm sick. Don't feel great. And I want to talk about this Piers Morgan, Candace Owens thing. And I watched this debate between Piers Morgan and Candace Owens. And I got to tell you, it was a delight to watch. For a couple of reasons. There are two people, Candace Owens and Piers Morgan, who are equally frustrating to watch, equally unreasonable on certain issues. Lately, Piers has been getting on my nerves even more than Candace. And Piers is so obnoxious on the Israel question. Ever since October 7th, Piers has been carrying the water for Israel. Even when he had to kind of acknowledge the genocide, he goes, well, what do you expect Israel to do? I don't know, not genocide people. So to bring Candace Owens on, and usually he and Candace are on one side of the fence and I'm on the other side. I know that's like where I'm debating Candace and him. But this time, they were on opposite sides of the aisle. And so Candace squares off against Piers Morgan, and it was interesting. I want to show you just a little a significant piece of this, and I'm going to interrupt at times so you can, because I want to break down exactly what Candace did, and I want to show you exactly how Piers responded, because I think it's super interesting. Watch this.
The larger discussion that's happening right now is whether or not having survived a Holocaust gives you the permission to commit a Holocaust. And for whatever reason, people have been, what I would say, milking the Holocaust narrative in the same way that Black Americans were milking the slavery narrative, and essentially saying, like, we lived through this and we survived this, and so now nobody can say that anything you do is wrong. And that's the big issue today, is that we have so many people that will not recognize that it.
Now, let me pause here, because it's really important. It's really important to also point out where Candace is doing some bullshit. She said people are milking the Holocaust narrative, and people are milking just like people were milking the slavery narrative. Okay. Black people are not milking the slavery narrative. And Black people have never argued that because we were enslaved, nothing we do is wrong. What Black people have argued is because we are enslaved, we absolutely are structurally disadvantaged, that we have been denied access, we've been dispossessed, and that something needs to be done to repair the damage that has been done. It's a reparations argument. That's what it is. It's not to say that all our behavior is defensible or explainable, and none of that. That's ridiculous. That's a right-wing ridiculous talking point. And similarly, I don't think that the Holocaust is being milked. I think it's important to talk about the Holocaust. I think it's important to never forget the Holocaust. The Holocaust is one of those again, morally indefensible atrocities, one of the greatest atrocities in human history. We shouldn't pretend that the Holocaust didn't happen. We should never forget the Holocaust. What we can't do, though, is let the Holocaust become a pretext for, as she said here correctly, prosecuting another Holocaust. And that's where she slips into the territory of actually being correct again. This is important.
It is totally feasible that a Jewish person, and I'm speaking here about Bibi Netanyahu, could do something as horrific as what was done to the Jews throughout World War II or throughout history.
But is that an accurate comparison? I'll tell you why I say that. As we know, I mean, whatever Dan Bilzerian wants people to believe, 6 million Jews were killed in the Holocaust. Another 6 million people were murdered by Hitler and the Nazis. The numbers of people being killed in Gaza are, in my view, have gone way beyond what is acceptable as a response to October the 7th. However, you're still talking about, at the moment, a death toll of under 50,000. There's no comparison.
What? You know how fucking stupid that is? First of all, it's not 50,000. It's not 50,000. Again, the numbers are way higher than that. But even if it were 50,000, are you saying it's not a Holocaust until 6 million died? There are 2.2 million people in Gaza. If that's your logic, that it's not noteworthy and that it's not a Holocaust, or that it's not a moral atrocity at the level of the Holocaust until 6 million people die. There's only 2.2 million people in Gaza. By that logic, you could kill everybody in Gaza and still couldn't make a comparison. 50,000 people is enough. This is not about numbers. There is no numbers cutoff for being a genocide. There is no numbers cutoff for satisfying the legal or moral or even historical standards for being a genocide. This does not make sense. If you kill 1,000 people because they were Palestinian, that would make it a genocide. Stop it. But what Piers like to do is move the goalposts, shift the argument. So now it's really what he's saying is this as bad as the Nazi Holocaust? No one is saying it's better or worse. I don't want to compare atrocities that way. This one's better. This one's worse. These are all awful things that shouldn't happen and are preventable. And instead of pointing out the fact that by his measure, 50,000, but probably hundreds of thousands of people are dead, instead of pointing to that, he's saying, yeah, but it's not 6 million. It's not 6 million. You can't prove it's not 6 million. These are the media tricks that they do. People like Piers Morgan. And this is why I show y'all stuff like this. It's not to highlight Piers Morgan or to celebrate Candace Owens. It's to show you how these media tricks go. But Candace holds steady here.
In the amount of dead people compared to the Holocaust. So do you understand why?
But it is a Holocaust, what's happening.
Well, is it though?
Yes.
Well, the
because
burning
I think
bodies,
language is really important.
I think
with
language
these
is really
things.
important as well. And that's
People
why
say Holocaust, genocide,
I
and so
think
on.
what's
I think
happening is a Holocaust. The burning bodies of the children that I'm seeing every day, and we spoke about this a little bit on my show, but
Yeah.
like I have recognized that the ability to see this stuff every day has transformed my opinion. Maybe the numbers wouldn't have gotten so high if people had spoken up when it was happening at the very beginning during World War II. And so I want to use my platform to say that I believe that they are intentionally executing a Holocaust. I think Bibi Netanyahu, there's tons of evidence, and obviously the Western media is not reporting on this, but the corruption trials that are going on with Bibi Netanyahu pertaining to October 7th and him editing the transcripts and the prior knowledge that he knew is now becoming extremely pertinent. It is a question as to whether or not he allowed the attacks to take place, essentially to then be able to go in and to commit this Holocaust against the Palestinians. Now, based on everything that
He hates that she's saying Holocaust over and over again. It's driving him crazy. And he has a nerve to say language is important. You damn right language is important. You're damn right, Piers.
I've looked into and stuff that I had not seen before because the Western media doesn't cover it. Bibi Netanyahu caught off camera speaking about how he had no intention of following the Abraham Accords and how he was going to get around it. He has, I believe, genocidal ambitions, and that's enough. We don't need to dispute, go backward or forward. Do I think Bibi Netanyahu has genocidal ambitions against the Palestinians? The answer is yes.
And that's how you handle that. That's how you handle that. And Candace went on to dog walk Piers Morgan over and over and over again in this interview. And as much as he tried to move the goalpost, as much as Piers Morgan tried to make this an impossible position for Israel, he said at one point, what do you want Israel to do after Hamas did all that? Again, which is besides the point. Candace said, just go after Hamas. If you think Hamas caused this thing and you want to defend yourself against Hamas, go after Hamas. You don't go after schools. Don't go after mosques. Don't go after children. Just go after the people who did it. But you're not going after them. You're going after Hamas. You're going after innocent women and children. You're going after... Piers had no answers. And I think that this is a lesson in how to function within these spaces. Be consistent. Hold your ground. Don't let them change the terms of the debate. Don't concede to ridiculous points. And this leads us to another dangerous place, though. Right? If you're part of the Palestinian liberation movement, if you're a pro-Palestinian, I think, first of all, the primary voice, if not the exclusive voice that should be on these spaces is Palestinians. On my platform, on Al Jazeera, I do everything I can to make sure there's a Palestinian on there every week, not a person like me, not a white guy, not a, I try to keep the stakeholders involved and have them speak for themselves. That's first. But if you're going to have someone non-Palestinian on there, you got to make sure that it's someone who doesn't just have the right argument at this moment. In other words, Candace is right, and she's dog walking Piers Morgan, but she's also slipping in arguments about slavery being milked by Black people, right? So you want to make sure the person's politics actually align. So while I can get real joy from watching them eat each other, I can get real pleasure from watching Candace Owens chop up Piers Morgan. I also would say, hey, that doesn't mean bring Candace Owens on to defend the Palestinian position, because bringing her on to defend the Palestinian position means you're also getting a perspective that doesn't meet our ethical or moral standards, that doesn't share our freedom dreams. You're getting somebody who doesn't share our values. And ultimately, that argument will break down somewhere when you get to what does the end goal look like. So please, I'm happy that Candace is chopping up Piers Morgan, but let's be clear. She ain't us. She's not on our political side. I'm not saying she's not Black. I'm not saying she's not any of those. I'm saying she ain't on our political side. She's not one of us politically, and therefore we should not romanticize her position. I know you're saying, Mark, you're the one putting her up here. I am. I'm putting her up here because I think it's an important critique to make, and I think it's important to know that where these critiques are coming from and how to critique those critiques. But that doesn't mean she's us. Just not us. It's really that simple. All right, y'all. I'm gonna let y'all go. The Wi-Fi is crazy. I'm sick. I'm gonna take it as a sign from the Lord that we should go. But before I do, I'm gonna take these super chats. Digger said, "Do you think Spades is a better game than Bidwist?" Yes, I don't think there's a better card game than Spades. Daniel said, "Imagine the clown you have to be to defend Candace. You paid $2 to say that." I'm not defending Candace. I'm trying to stay hydrated. I'm sick as hell, yo. Nah, I said not to get all Candace and conspiratorial, but I think we're probably trafficking the babies too. Joe watched his daughter. You know, I'm not reading the second part of that, but the top of it. Was there trafficking happening with the judge? I don't know what was happening with the judge. I think it was as simple as for-profit prisons and the judges getting paid to send people to for-profit prison. I think it's really that simple. I don't think it's human trafficking. I don't think it's anything sexual going on with it. I disagree with that. I don't put anything past anybody in American politics, but that doesn't seem to be based on the evidence, based on the research that others have done. There's been no mention of that. There's been no sign of that. So I don't want to add stuff to the mix that ain't there, because there's plenty of creepy shit that is there. Oh my God. Bill Williamson said, "Sorry for asking. Can you inform us more on Indigenous people? I want to learn more." It's funny you say that. One, I hope you see my interview with Nick Estes that's posted on the channel now. We did about Indigenous rights. But we have actually, it's funny, my producer, one of my booker here at night school, actually, we were just talking yesterday about bringing in some experts to talk about Indigenous rights movements, Indigenous activism, and some of the organizations that are doing work, not just in the United States, but also especially in Canada. So absolutely, Bill, we will be doing that. I appreciate you saying that. I want to take Ed Liddell on his comment on it. Says the only Palestinian Piers Morgan had on the show was that crazy Hamas. Oh yeah, you talking about the guy I debated. I can't think his name, Musab something. But yeah, the son of Hamas. No, he's had other. That's not fair. Piers has had other Palestinians on other than the son of Hamas. I'm pretty sure. I can think of 2 or 3 people who have been on. Has no Etiquette been on there? I know Linda Sarsour has been on. He's had others on, but I get your point. It ain't been enough. There haven't been enough. And that's not unintentional, is all I'll say. I want to shout out Ed, Isaac Hemsey for gifting 10 memberships. Ed, Isaac, thank you so much. Isaac Hemsey, thank you so much for 10 memberships. Hopefully y'all grab the memberships up, yo. But family, we need your support. So if other people want to match Isaac's generosity, I appreciate that too. But thank you. And yes, Nora would absolutely dog walk that man. He wouldn't even let Nora talk if she was on it. That's the point. That's the whackness of that platform, is that they don't give voice or space rather for the real voices. All right. Yep. Yeah, I think that's right. Yeah, interrupting is Pierce's favorite thing. I'm telling you, if you agree with him, you can talk uninterrupted. If you disagree with him, you get maybe half a word out, half a sentence out. It's crazy to watch. Anyway, y'all, thank y'all for watching Night School, man. I appreciate y'all. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. If you're so inclined, hit the join button and become a member of the channel. Oh, God, I feel like shit. I hate this. And my wife had the whole flu and took it like a G. I got a cold. You're going to hear me complaining, whining, because I am a man, and that's what men do. We complain about being sick. Anyway, we're approaching not just the end of the month, but the end of the year. I would ask that you, and just hit the like button and the subscribe button right now, I would ask that you all consider making some end of the year donations to the channel if possible. Think about it. Joining the channel, getting started with the whole, with the new year, with the whole kind of 12 months to go. Also think about making donations to the channel if you don't want to make a monthly commitment by joining I would ask you to at least consider making a donation. We got Cash App, we got PayPal, we got Venmo, we got Zelle. You can go to these platforms right now. You can just hit that button. You can hit that button and donate $1. We are so grateful if everybody gave $1. If you gave $1 million, we'd be so grateful. We'd be really grateful if you gave $1 million. But anything in the middle, we are also grateful for. You know, we love a couple of end of the year donations. If people were talking about making end of the year donations of $5,000, $10,000, if someone wants to make a donation for the year for $5,000 or $10,000, right there on the Cash App, right there on the Venmo, whatever, we would be so grateful. It would go so far into building this independent media channel. What we're asking for right now, in all sincerity, is that if everybody watching right now could donate $10. If everybody watching right now could just go to Cash App, PayPal, Venmo, or Zelle and drop $10 in, we could meet our financial goals for the month with just $10 from you all. We would be so grateful. Anyway, y'all, I appreciate y'all. I'm grateful for y'all, and I can't wait to see y'all again tomorrow. I'm gonna take some echinacea, some vitamin C. I'm gonna take all that stuff, and I'm gonna see y'all tomorrow, healthier and better. If somebody drops that $1 million, I'll feel a whole lot better. The donation of memberships is great because it keeps people here too. Thanks, Mark and everybody. That's right, exactly. That's so important. That's why I say, you know, either joining yourself or buying or donating memberships to people, it goes so far. It keeps the channel growing, and that's the most important thing, y'all. That is the most important thing. Calm like a bomb. Drop the question, so I'll answer the question because I appreciate questions. It wasn't the question I was expecting, but it's a question that I'll answer. What is the best way for a beginner to start learning Arabic? Is there a specific book or program you would recommend outside of a formal class? You know, I'm always going to say take the formal classes. You know, I'm going to say that. But yeah, there are books that are good. One book, I may have it here to show you. Wait. Yep. This is the introduction to Arabic letters and sounds. It's called Alif Ba. This is for like super beginners. It's the most basic beginners book. This is made from the program at Georgetown University. It's called Alif Ba. Then after Alif Ba, there is this book. It's called الكتاب في تعلم العربية, which is the beginner series of people informally just call it Al-Kitab. So make sure it's it's called Al-Kitab في تعلم العربية اللغة العربية. And that's a very good program. When I was learning Arabic many moons ago, I started studying Arabic in 1996, the fall of 96. So it's been like in school. So it's been I studied a little bit before that, but in school in 96. So I'm talking almost 29 years ago. This series wasn't out yet. The University of Michigan series was the big one. Modern Standard Arabic. I love that series, but it's not interactive. It's for nerds. It's for a certain kind of learner. It's not the best kind of learning, which is a lot of vocabulary lists, a lot of words, old school photocopies. These books were made in the 50s, 60s, 70s. I used that to learn and found it very helpful. I still like those books for vocab and structure. But Al-Kitab and Alif Ba, which is part of the Al-Kitab series, is much better. It's interactive. It's comes with, well, I guess people don't use CDs anymore, but it has all that kind of stuff. It also begins to teach dialect early. You know, the old model of learning Arabic was to learn Fusha, modern standard. Well, Fusha. Well, anyway, we use Fusha and modern standard Arabic interchangeably. They're not actually exactly the same, but you would learn kind of formal modern standard Arabic. Then after you master that, you would then pick up a dialect. And, you know, you might learn Masri, Egyptian, or Shami, Levantinian, Maghribi, maybe, or most people didn't do that. Khaliji, Gulf Arabic. now they try to, from the beginning, give people a kind of introduction to Arabic and the dialects, because modern standard Arabic and and colloquial Arabic are very, 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 very different. They're not slightly different. It's not like Spanish or French where you can get by with the formal language and navigate the streets just fine. I could walk through, anyway, that's a whole other conversation. But with Arabic, it's not like that. If you only know standard Arabic, if you only know modern standard Arabic, you really can't get very far on the street. You really can't catch a cab or talk to somebody in a village. I mean, the languages are you wouldn't understand anything. They may understand you, depending on the level of education, but you absolutely wouldn't understand them. So now they try to close that gap, and the way to close that gap is through these books. So all that to say, we can have a whole thing on Arabic later, but get Al Kitab. Al Kitab is helpful. Yeah, and then I would say get a tutor and immediately start using your Arabic. Try and use it, mobilize it. Don't just make it textbook Arabic, because again you'll build up all these strengths in formal Arabic and won't be able to say anything. Anyway, just my thoughts. Now, like Taylor's saying, yeah, I don't know. A lot of people learning Spanish for the first time can understand this Puerto Rican. Yeah, but it's not. It's different. Like Spanish, there's a level of comprehension that you won't have in any language until you learn colloquial, until you start to talk to people, till you hear it. You pick up the way people pronounce letters, the way people create sound, even some vocab. But I'm saying like Arabic is like another level of it. It's called diglossia. There's a whole linguistic thing about it, but Arabic is like just another level. Is all I can tell you. The vocabulary words are totally different. The grammar structures are different. The pronunciations are different. I mean, it's really like learning two languages. Learning Arabic, formal standard Arabic, and colloquial Arabic is like almost like learning two languages. I mean, I can't. Yeah, it's like there are very few places in Spanish speaking where you don't say quiero. Right, quiero is I want, right? So there might be different ways to say it, but in Arabic, arad, or the verb to want, right? Uridu in formal Arabic, uridu an أتكلم اللغة العربية. Right, I want to speak Arabic. Uridu an. In Egypt would be عايز بتكلم Arabic. In Lebanon or Palestine, it would be بدي أحكي عربي. Right? It's so distinguished. Remember, أريد أن أتكلم عربي بدي أحكي عربي. Right? Very different. Under, look, in formal Arabic. Shoo, in informal Arabic. Like the words are so. It's the grammar, right? Uridu an أتكلم عربي, right? The use of the "and" in between the two verbs, and to move into the subjunctive. But it's also like the actual words themselves were different. And then of course there's the kind of slang in Egypt. You say akhbarak like as opposed to shokhbarak in Syria, right? Those are not super big, right? Kefak, Zayek, Shlonek, in all the different regions, right? Bagait in Morocco, right? All of this is all of it is like a different kind of They're all just very distinct. And so an advocate can become very, very challenging if you go to a place that's where they've never studied the formal Arabic, where they've never studied the Fusha, right? So all they have is the Amiyya. And so yeah, anyway, I don't want to go on and on about it because it's probably beyond the level of interest people had. No one cares. But just they're all yeah, they're all very different. Anyway, I'll see y'all later in the week. I'm going to tap out. I'm not feeling so good. But I'll see y'all. Have a good night. I appreciate the donations. I appreciate the love, and I'll see y'all later. Peace.